There is an unwritten law of the gaming world that states the following. If a non-gamer attempts to play a 3D video game, they will stare at the floor and walk into walls for like 10 minutes before giving up all hope in the game and the sad, miserable, useless child that asked them to play said game in the first place. So a few months ago, I decided to break this law like an epic gamer criminal man, and I created a program that taught non-gamers how to play first-person shooters without just staring at these lovely, lovely floors. I built the game to help anyone learn how to play the first-person shooter game Portal, and it kind of worked, so I thought why not use the feedback I got from that first program to make another program that teaches people how to move, look around, and interact with objects in the highly recommended third-person adventure game, Journey. The biggest issue in the first program I mentioned is that people couldn't play it if they lacked a super beefy PC or chose the wrong operating system. So I stopped using the performance-heavy Unreal Engine and learned how to use the much lighter Unity engine for this project. Another thing people pointed out about my FPS program is that new players would often get confused if they used an ability they hadn't learned yet. For example, I never explicitly taught players how to walk backwards, so when they accidentally clicked the S key, some players freaked out. So to start this new game, I only allow the player to use the W key and nothing else, not even the camera. The player will walk forward to this boarded up doorway, and then get the option to do that little blip thing from Journey. They'll probably click the left mouse button once and see it does nothing. My hope is that the player will remember that holding down W made them get to their destination at a quicker rate than tapping it. Since they know tapping the left mouse button does nothing, they may replicate the holding action from before onto the left mouse button to see this blip orb charge up and automatically release, which will send these wood boards flying off the doorway. Through this, the player should learn two things. The longer they hold the button, the larger the blip radius, and they can only hold the button for so long before it automatically releases, or at least that is the idea of this section. Since sitting here and mashing the left mouse button doesn't really do anything at this point, the new player is forced to go forward and notice these two buttons on their way to this metal door. Once the player sees they can't open this door with their blip, they are given a prompt to move backwards. On their way back, they'll notice these buttons once again and unlock the ability to move left and right once they are positioned in front of them. The player will activate them with the blip and move onward to the intimidating stairs. I've mentioned before in every other How Your Parents Can Play episode that having a new player press two keys on a keyboard at once is like telling them to keep their legs still when you whack it with a hammer. For some reason, whenever they go to press a second key on the keyboard, they have some sort of instinctive reflex that makes them let go of the first key. And I think I finally figured out why this is. A friend of mine pointed out to me that most non-gamers use computers exclusively for business work, like writing papers or emails, and if you end up pressing more than one key at a time when typing, you mess up your paper. And if you've ever used a typewriter, you know that the consequence of pressing two keys at once were much worse, with you potentially damaging or breaking the entire machine. After years and years of being punished for pressing two keys at once on a keyboard-looking device, many computer-literate people may have developed a tendency to only press one button on a keyboard at a time. So for this test and this program, I wanted to see if new players would have an easier time pressing two buttons at once on a controller instead of a keyboard. With a controller being brand new to them, they will have no actions to unlearn before they can press two buttons at once, or perform various other actions. So by using a controller prompts pack made and recommended by Nicole Berbeche, the creator of Move or Die, I added PS4, Xbox, and of course Ouya options for the game's controls. In these first jumps with the big stairs, new players don't need to time any button presses. They just have to hold forward and the jump button at the same time to get across. Next, the player unlocks the ability to look up and down to space these jumps they have to time properly. Finally, they arrive at this locked door, which tests every skill the player has learned so far by having them look up, jump, and use a charged blip to get to the next area. In the FPS training program, I taught new players how to look at the entire world and not just the floor by introducing them to a 3D space, one axis at a time. However, in doing so, I locked away the ability to look left and right for a time before giving it back again. Quite a few people pointed out that taking an ability away from new players could be very frustrating and confusing. And I agree, so when the player gains the ability to look left and right here, they are still able to look up and down as well. The player then crosses these platforms, which encourage moving the camera left and right regardless of what path you choose. They hit these two buttons to remind them that multiple lights above a door mean there are multiple buttons to press, and they enter this room, which is a final test of looking around, jumping, and using their blip ability to get to the star at the end. Now, all that's left to do is pack up my laptop and go hire a non-gamer test subject to have play through the training program and play through Journey.
I have come from Elysium by command of the Forefather.
So, I would like to introduce Socratetris.
Hello.
He's a YouTuber that makes video essays which analyze how philosophy and video games connect. He kindly volunteered to run his mom through the training program and Journey to help us find out how to modify both games to make them better for new players. Anyway, would you mind starting us off and enlightening our dear audience with all the knowledge regarding how your mother played through the training program?
Of course. So I plugged my PlayStation 4 controller into my PC, then had my mother play your training game, and in the beginning, everything was great. My mom easily figured out how to walk, and she even figured out how to charge the blip in a matter of seconds. Then she entered the next room, and things didn't go as well, because she was not interested in these trash cans, but instead thought the water was important and spent 2 minutes staring at it. Then she didn't want to go past the door because she assumed that there was just more water behind it. I eventually told her the trash cans were important, but by that time she forgot that she could charge her blip, and eventually ended up opening the door by mashing the blip button.
It was at this point in time when I knew her run of Journey would be absolutely perfect.
Well, to your credit, the jumping section worked out pretty good. She seemed to have no problems pressing 2 buttons at once, so it looks like using a controller instead of a keyboard definitely helped with that, and she got through these timed jumps without much issue at all. The only concern I had is that she wouldn't keep the thumbstick held in a certain direction till the camera was placed correctly. Instead, she would lightly tap the thumbstick once in a direction to move the camera, wait for it to move to its original position, then tap it again. I don't know why she treated the right joystick differently from the left joystick, but it is certainly something to watch out for if you guide someone through this program. It took her a while to find the button up here, but take note that once she knew what she had to do, she was able to perform this action with proper timing of the jump and blip on her first try. Past the door, we ran into our second set of issues when she unlocked looking right and left. The problem being she would only look right or left, which means she didn't correct her vertical camera placement for these jumps and didn't get a good sense of how far away these platforms were. Even when she messed up the hitboxes and respawned back where looking up and down was introduced, she would still exclusively look left and right. I'm unsure if this was due to the way Etra added the ability to look left and right without teaching it on its own first, or if it was about my mom interacting with the right stick in a different way than the left. After 8 minutes, she finally made it past this section and entered the final room. Since these indicators were so close to the door, and it had been so long since she pressed a button, Mom made an association that the indicators are what activated the door instead of the buttons. She figured out the problem though and started to look for the buttons, but when she went to jump up and hit the first one, she seemed to no longer be able to time and jump a blip at the same time, like she did earlier. The other buttons were easy enough to get through, and then she made it to the end. Her final time was 25 minutes and 40 seconds, nearly half an hour to complete the program. Etra, how does that compare?
Honestly, not super well. I got a bunch of test results from the FPS video, and that FPS training game was longer and more complex than this one, but the average time for it was 15 minutes. This much shorter game taking 25 minutes means I have a whole lot to improve in version 2.
But hey, on the bright side, when she started Journey, she wasn't staring at the ground.
Yes, and about that, we'll cover all the craziness that happened while she played Journey in this video right here. If you've already watched that one, make sure to check out Socratetris' video on the philosophy that inspired Journey, and feel free to subscribe to keep up to date on projects I'm working on. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all next time.